At any point, 615-737-1045. That's the number. 615-737-1045 is how you get it done. Kirby's already abandoned me for a cigarette break. Lucas Panzica is somewhere in the wilds of downtown Nashville at Network Control. And we have a lot to discuss this morning. Buddy, it's been a bit of a bleep show down here. I don't know if you've been following the news, but between yesterday's coaching hires, you've got some coaches who are jumping ship for jobs that they've already committed to, for those of you who are paying attention to the Titans' hirings and firings. And then Tom Brady this morning just kind of decides to nuke the entire East Ballroom here at the Mobile Convention Center, where there's a good percentage of the league that's gathered to talk to these Senior Bowl draft prospects. And Tommy's decided to retire. Is it a little more, I know the weather's terrible. Is it a little calmer at home?
Well, yeah, the entire NFL's not here, and I was worried my handle of my car door was going to break off when I got in my car this morning.
Okay, so like it was 73 and actually sunny. Like I had to take off layers yesterday at practice because I was sweating. I've seen tweets from Nashville severe weather that give me anxiety about coming back home tomorrow after practice, and so I should, maybe I should just stay here for another day.
I won't complain.
Disrespectful. Mike Giardi of the NFL Network is going to be here. He's obviously very, very close to the Tom Brady situation, and he will give us some insights and analysis on that. I guess now Tom's next stage is to get paid $37.5 million a year to go work for Fox. That doesn't sound like a bad landing spot.
Where did he appear to be to you? Did he? I mean, that looked dangerously close to Panama City Beach in the background of Tom Brady's retirement video.
See, I haven't even heard the audio yet, which we will play for you shortly because I'm literally in the Mobile Convention Center. There's probably, they have the way that they split this up, if you guys want a little inside, I guess not baseball, but football. The way that they have this is they have two media breakfast-like settings or time frames where they bring in the American team from 7 a.m. to 7:45, and then the national team from 8 to 8:45. And in the middle of all that, while everybody's interviewing these draft prospects, Tom Brady retires. So I see the news. I haven't heard the announcement, and I honestly haven't looked at the background yet. Should we Zapruder film this? I'll pull it up on my phone right now, and we can dissect it. But first, let's hear from Tom Brady in his own words as he retires for the second time? ?
Good morning, guys. I'll get to the point right away. I'm retiring for good. I know the process was a pretty big deal last time, so when I woke up this morning, I figured I'd just press record and let you guys know first. So I won't be long-winded. Like you only get one super emotional retirement essay, and I used mine up last year. So really thank you guys so much to every single one of you for supporting me, my family, my friends, my teammates, my competitors. I could go on forever. There's too many. Thank you guys for allowing me to live my absolute dream. I wouldn't change a thing. Love you all.
Okay, so that's Tom Brady, tearing up, getting a little dusty about his retirement situation. And here's the thing. I'm looking at the video now. He does appear to be somewhere. So you're alleging that Tom is at Panama City Beach? You don't think Tom Brady can vacation anywhere better and do his retirement situation? He's probably somewhere in Europe. You're assuming he's in Florida, for God's sakes?
He can vacation anywhere he wants. That's it looks like Panama City Beach. The high rises behind him look like just regular old beach condos in just regular Florida beaches.
Why? Do you see the Holiday Inn somewhere? It gives me college spring break PTSD if that's anywhere in the background.
I like to imagine a world where you're walking around on the beach, you're trying to get away from the weather wherever you live, and it's early in the morning, you're taking your kids on a walk, and you look over at one of those dunes, and you just see Tom Brady crouched, retiring on social media.
No, wait. You're making Panama City Beach sound much more family friendly than the last time that I was at Panama City.
Panama City Beach is family friendly now. That's what it is. Like they've come a long way from what they used to be.
Kirby just said G-rated. The last time I was there, people were bonging things like Four Locos before they made them like hearts. I mean, they're probably still not hearts.
That's why it's G-rated, Buck.
Oh, okay. People passing away from Four Loko.
It was very intentional by them.
Abuse. Well, smart play by them. I don't know how that's affected their spring break industry. Either way, we're not here to talk about Panama City's economy. We're here to talk about Tom Brady's retirement. Couple of things here. How soon do you think it takes Jerry Jones to get on the phone and call Tom Brady and be like, we will pay you all the money to come quarterback the Dallas Cowboys?
Yeah, I mean, the question is, do you believe Tom Brady?
Is that a poll? If it's not, it should be. Okay. At Buck Rising is where you can vote on the polls. You have entirely too much control this week because I've not been able to help you really plan the show, given the early media availability. So I feel like you've had an inordinate amount of control of my social media accounts this week. It makes me very nervous.
There's no proof of that.
Yet. Do you believe Tom Brady? 615-737-1045. I sure as hell don't. I don't know how you could. I mean, he said he's alleging that this is that he used his super long retirement essay last year, but he didn't. It wasn't a retirement essay, and that's the thing that I want to talk to Giardi about. It wasn't a retirement essay. He wasn't saying anything about the New England Patriots. It was a whole goodbye to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers because he was still trying to orchestrate a coup to go from Tampa to Miami with Sean Payton to somehow become part owner of the Dolphins and then eventually play quarterback from them in one of the most under-discussed conspiracy theories that actually was true. The NFL punished Stephen Ross, the Dolphins owner, with unprecedented fines and losses of draft picks. There's only 31 first-round picks this year because the league said, nah, Miami, if you're going to mess around with Tom Brady that way and just openly tamper, we're going to take your things from you. I don't know how anybody could take him at his word because as recently as, 3 weeks ago, or whenever his season came to an end in the wild card round against the Cowboys, he was his people, not him, but his people, likely on his behalf, were leaking teams' interest in Tom Brady. That's not coming from the teams at the time. The Titans didn't even have a damn general manager when Ian Rappaport was on the NFL Network talking about the Niners, the Raiders, and Tennessee having interest in Tom Brady. That's not coming from the organizations. That's coming from his side of things. So I don't know if he's not getting the interest level that he seeks. I don't know if he's going to pull a Gronk. Did you see? I mean, I'm sure you saw, Lucas, and many of you who keep track of these things. I'm sure you saw Rob Gronkowski not necessarily ruling out a return in 2023. So does he take time? Does he come back in the middle of the season? He's a free agent. He can do as he likes. So, no, I don't believe that Tom Brady's retired. I don't know how anybody could. And how that affects the dynamic of you now removed, in theory, the best free agent quarterback from the market this year, how that affects the dominoes that will fall around these things where we talked about yesterday, the Ravens have not officially tagged Lamar Jackson.
And you also place another team firmly on the quarterback market now.
In Tampa. Yes, I mean, and they had expressed interest to Tom Brady in his return. I have no idea what he's going to end up doing, how it's going to look. Do you know, we were literally here last year. This is the same date, Lucas, when that whole thing happened last year where he, quote-unquote, retired for 40 days. And then came back after a couple of months, I guess, around his family and said, nah, this whole thing isn't for me. So now is Tom Brady going to be satisfied with doing 17 NFL games a season for Fox and chilling out in the booth and working? I mean, he has other outside business interests. He's out here pushing his underwear line and all these other things, TB12 books and dietary plans and things of that nature. He can be Peyton Manning if he wants to and just turn into a titan of industry and a media personality. But, I mean, is that Tom Brady to you?
If he comes back again, it's like, okay, man, let's figure this out. Come on, what are we doing here? That if he unretires again, then I think a lot of people are going to start to get frustrated with Tom Brady.
Well, yeah, I mean, okay, so this is a little bit, beyond. It's not beyond our generation. It happened during our lifetimes, but Brett Favre. People were sick of Brett Favre's bleep. You know what I'm saying? Like five. Kirby says 5 times. I just remember a sad tenure with the Jets, where I think he had an upset over the Titans that year, and then he had the Minnesota years where he was in the playoffs and then got bounty gated at the end of his career. And it was just a constant cycle of Brett Favre. Get the bleep out of our lives already. You are done. There is no reason to prolong this thing, and yet he kept coming back and kept getting grayer, and now he's all over Copperfit commercials and apparently, stealing money from the state of Mississippi to fund a volleyball facility or something to that effect. What is the difference at this point between the behavior of Tom Brady and the behavior of Brett Favre, other than Brady hasn't had the opportunity to do this stuff 5 times? I keep getting very close to cussing. He makes me very upset. Tom Brady does. So stay close to the dump button today, Lucas. I know who else Tom Brady's need for attention frustrates. Mike Giardi of the NFL Network. He will join us to give us his insights and analysis and talk about the massive dominoes in the coaching search situation, the NFL coaching cycle that fell during the Senior Bowl yesterday. I'm Buck Rising, live from Mobile. It's 104.5 The Zone. Welcome back. Live from Mobile. Senior Bowl practices, the first round, getting ready to start a little over an hour from now, and then we'll catch up with the afternoon session. Got a lot of notes and observations from yesterday's work we'll get to here in just a second. Get to your phone calls as well, 615-737-1045. Meanwhile, one of our favorite regular callers, Mike Giardi of the NFL Network, is on the line. Michael, how are we?
Oh, we're just peachy. How are you?
Peachy. Why? Has your morning routine been disrupted? Is your hours-long hair gel session that you need to make sure that you're television ready been interrupted to make sure that you can have the appropriate Tom Brady retirement coverage today?
I was sleeping when this all happened this morning, so I was rudely awakened, and this guy has dominated my world for like 20 years. What's another day?
Yes, but is it just another day, Mike? Like, let's be honest, okay? Because we literally did this interview, you and I, here in Mobile, a year ago today, the very same date when he decided, or whatever, that Adam Schefter and Jeff Darlington were getting too close and it was, quote-unquote, a retirement, even though it wasn't actually a retirement. Do you really believe that this is the last day that we're going to have to sit here and talk about Tom Brady?
I do. I think, when we talked about it last year, remember, I think I used a word that some people were bothered by, but it felt like it was a little forced, like its hand was forced, because the information came out, and I'm not sure he was 100% ready to go with it. And as we well know, it took 40 days, and he was back in football. I think he contemplated this. He knew, or he feels comfortable with this. And I'm sure there'll be points, man, where obviously he's going to feel the burn of trying to do it again, because he can still do it.
Yeah.
But I think this is the decision. I think this is, I guess, as final as it can be when you could probably still suit up tomorrow.
So he's a 7-time Super Bowl winner. He's a 5-time Super Bowl MVP. He's got 10 total appearances in the Super Bowl. He has 14 conference championship game appearances, 8 consecutive, 3-time NFL MVP, the most quarterback wins, attempts, completions, yards, and touchdowns. I still think something about this, Mike, makes me think that he's going to Brett Favre it and decide whether it's at some point during the season when there's a quarterback injury and he doesn't have to go through like all of the training camp stuff, that he decided he's just going to take a vacation during this year when they came to Tennessee to have joint practices with the Titans. I don't know why I can't wrap my head around the idea that a 46-year-old quarterback is not done playing football yet.
Well, because we just went through it, and that's always going to be in the back of your brain. We just did this 1 year ago exactly. So, you're always going to have that feeling. If something happens to a quarterback on the East Coast, because obviously, I think the family part of this is massive for him, all the things that he's been through this last year, understandably. And if his ex-wife and two of his children are going to be in Miami, then, the idea of San Francisco or Las Vegas that people have been kicking around didn't make a ton of sense to me, because you're gone. I know he can afford a private plane and fly across the country, but that's not an easy thing to do. Whereas if you're stuck in, say, Carolina, it's a, 2-hour flight, 90-minute flight to get somewhere. So we're always going to have that feeling. But I just think that the emotion, I think, was real for him. And look, like, they weren't a very good team this year. I know they made the playoffs. I think it was a really hard year, and I think you kind of saw that. And I think you saw it emotionally. I think you saw it, somewhat physically with him this year. And while he's still capable of playing, I think that this year took a lot out of him. And I don't know that he wants to do it again. It just sort of feels like, man, do I want to go back to Tampa where the coaching wasn't so great and now we have a new OC? Do I want to start over someplace? Like, it feels to me like he's done, or as close to done as he can be. Like I said, we'll have those things in our brain for the entire year, but I think it feels like it's right. I think it feels like it's time.
Well, certainly, it would be understandable, as you said, if this was when he decided to do so, and you have no idea what goes on in these guys' personal lives. We think we know professional athletes and people in this world just because we have more access to them than we've ever had, but we don't actually know the dynamics that are involved in this. other than to talk about the idea that he's playing a little better since his recent marital situation has gone down, or silly comments like that you hear uttered by talking heads like me. I think that though, Mike, how much do you think, because you mentioned Tampa and the idea of going back, and he's still, or until such time as we have been far enough removed for the retirement where it feels more real, he's the best free agent quarterback available on the market this year. Was there, based on your understanding, I don't know how much reporting you've done around this just generally, was there actual interest in Tom Brady beyond Tampa Bay?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I would. Yeah, there was. I mean, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I know several teams that were already starting to sniff around it, and it makes sense because if you feel like you're ready to win now, or you're establishing a culture, I mean, who better to get than that guy? And look, like I said, so watching him this year, more so than ever, he was really shy of contact in the pocket. And sometimes I think his eyes looked at the rush more than they looked downfield. And some of that is self-preservation. I'm 45, but some of that might be just like it was time. So I don't know. I mean, the whole process of playing and getting ready to play, and then having, like I said, the idea of, I mean, look at the teams that you think the Jets would want him? Absolutely. You think the Raiders would want him? Absolutely. You think San Francisco would want him now, considering their situation? Absolutely. And I'm sure there's a couple other teams that we're not even mentioning that would like to have been in the mix, but that would come with that sort of, how committed is he to it, knowing the other stuff that goes on in his life right now. That would be a question that I think teams are going to have to answer and ask and push and prod with him. And I mean, now he's sort of, like I said, he's made sure that we don't have to do that, at least not full time for the next, 6 weeks, 8 weeks.
Well, bless him, because now all I have to deal with is will Lamar Jackson be tagged and traded to Tennessee, because that's the kind of thing that my offseason has devolved into. Giardi mentions the Brock Purdy situation. For those of you who were unaware, it was reported that he needs Tommy John surgery and is expected to miss about a year, according to notable orthopedic surgeon Dr. Mark Atkins, I think is how the last name is pronounced. Either way, the 6 to 9 month timeline initially reported by, I believe, Adam Schefter looks to be off by a couple of months. So San Francisco in a difficult situation there. From Tom Brady to the coaching hires that were made yesterday, Mike, DeMeco Ryans ultimately lands with a team that who he played for and was also at one time suing as their head coach. And then Sean Payton seems to be a team finally desperate enough to pay him the $20 million a year that he's looking for, reportedly, and also give up a first-round pick to get him in the Denver Broncos, who it sounds like a lot of NFL coaching prospects were just flat turning down their head coaching opportunity. What do you make of both scenarios, depending on where you want to start?
Well, just from the Houston standpoint, so now 3 years with Nick Caserio, 3 first-year coaches. Lovey, not a first-year coach, but David Culley, they pulled him out of a hat, it seemed like, and that obviously didn't go well. They paid him $20-something million to go away. Now Lovey, 1 year done, paying him $20 million to go away. So, I mean, there's a lot to like about that job in the sense that it's really a blank slate, and you obviously have the second overall pick and all that nonsense. But I just wonder about ownership there, and I wonder about, look, I was around Nick when he was in New England. I think he's a really bright guy. I think that he did a nice job of I think there is some talent on that team, but he is very, very involved, including on game day. And, I just wonder, first-year head coach, is that something you really want? Do you want your general manager literally in the coaching booth telling you what to do, or giving you advice? That's a little odd to me. As for Peyton, I think it was pretty clear that all the people were turning it down because the sense was that they were going big game hunting and Harbaugh was the first choice. And we know this past week, the owner flew out there to try to convince him again, after going through the rigmarole with him the first time. And when he made it clear that he wasn't coming, I think they had no other choice, because it does look embarrassing. It does look embarrassing that Dan Quinn decided to stay as the DC and D'Amico Ryans decided that he'd rather have Houston than you. And, on and on it goes. I think they had to pay his price, and I think they had to pay the Saints' price. So the end result for them, though, is a good end result. I mean, if we're talking about the best coach in terms of track record that was on the market, it's Sean Payton. So the process may have been ugly, and I guess people were mocking them for it, but at the end of the day, they have Payton, and now I would just say to him, good luck trying to figure out the Russell Wilson thing.
Lucas, if you could put on the poll, at Buck Rising is where you vote on them. What was that word you used? Rigmarole? The average age of somebody who uses the word rigmarole, please.
You suck so bad.
I don't think I've ever heard anybody under the age of 80 use that word, but it's okay. Mike Giardi, the NFL Network, here with us on 104.5 The Zone. The Casario thing. So that's real, that he's involved so much so as to be on the headset during the games?
Oh, yeah. He was, during his entire time with New England, he was up there. I mean, he was on the field, like in practice every day, coaching. And then, he would be in the booth. He'd be in the headset, and that has continued in Houston. I think that was part of the when he took that job, I think it was pretty clear. This is what I do. This is what I'm going to continue to do. So I don't know. Like I said, I guess we'll have to see going forward if that's something that he and D'Amico were on the same page with, or if D'Amico's like, hey, dude, I'm not taking this job if you're going to be in my ear. You do your thing, I do my thing. You build the roster, I coach them. You let me coach them on Sundays. So I guess that'll be something that, I'm sure we'll have a press conference here with him soon that I would assume would be asked by the reporters in Houston.
I can't imagine a scenario like, so for example, it's been a point of discussion down here. John Robinson, the former Titans general manager, how often he was involved with like practice in particular, like being out there on the field, working with the players, going through drills, and how that might strike a coaching staff, not as a fireable offense, but as a list of accumulating things that you may not necessarily love. I'm not saying that that's the case for the Tennessee staff, but just generally the over-involvement of a general manager that way when it comes to the actual day-to-day coaching of the football team. I just can't imagine anybody, especially D'Amico Ryans, who's one of the most, was he not the most discussed candidate after Sean Payton, just because Sean Payton had the Fox platform to be able to report his own news on this thing? I don't know how D'Amico Ryans, is one of the hottest coaching candidates out there, would look around and be like, yeah, you know what, that's for me.
Yeah, it's a great question, and that just a point rather, and it does raise the question. Like look, like guys like Casario, he played in college, and you go to the pros, and you kind of go through the ranks as various things. You're the gopher, and then you're a scout, and you're doing all these different things. But football is in his blood, just like it was with John. I mean, I know, and I mean, I've seen practices where John's holding the bag, for defensive linemen. And like, as long as the head coach is fine with it and the assistants are fine with it, then that's great. But like, it is a little weird. I feel like that separation of church and state, if you will. Like, does he really need to be here? Do we really need to do this? Is that really valuable for the club? Like, can't he be doing other things? And are you then watching practice and participating in practice and then saying to the coach, like, I don't know why you're starting this guy when this guy is, he's had a real good week, or like that. It just seems odd. But I guess, hey, look, they want to be like this open think tank. Everybody's involved. Everybody gets to weigh in process. And again, we'll see whether Ryan's okay with that.
Mike Giardi, the NFL Network, here with us on 104.5 The Zone. At Mike Giardi is where you can find him. Are you on television today?
I am on television today with my gravelly voice as I recover from I'm battling the end of the season cold and getting ready to go to. You're in Mobile. I get ready to go to Phoenix.
Oh, you're going to the Super Bowl.
Oh, yes. So James Palmer and I are your AFC reporters this week.
Okay.
Or next week.
So what is the thing that most interests you? What are the questions that you're dying to ask the Kansas City Chiefs as a part of your exceptional, at some point, I would imagine, award-winning journalism that you'll do on the Kansas City Chiefs for NFL Network?
Patrick Mahomes, is he faking the injury? No. Dude, I'm not even
Are
kidding
you
you. So
lying publicly to throw the line?
Well, we were sitting there, and you're watching it, right? First of all, I watched him skip on the field in pregame warm-ups, and I'm like, bro, he's skipping?
Yeah.
He has a high ankle sprain. Like, how is that even humanly possible? Like, anybody who's had a high ankle sprain knows they suck. And then if you had a high ankle sprain and you're this elite athlete, like, that just is brutal. And I realize they're getting treatment to the nth degree, and they're obviously professional athletes, so they're superior physical beings to the rest of us. But that did strike me. But then we did see, obviously there were clear moments where it's bothering him. I'm curious how much better it can get in the next 2 weeks. You would assume quite a bit better. And then I just think it's kind of fascinating because they were the two best teams all year. And at points this year, they beat the crap out of everybody. And, I don't know that we always get the two best teams during the regular season end up playing in the Super Bowl. So I just kind of fascinated that they both were able to withstand that week in, week out challenge and burn of being the best team and then delivering the goods when they had to.
Well, enjoy yourself in Phoenix. I hope you get a sunburn, and thank you for making time on short notice.
I hope I get a sunburn, too. I'm pale as can be, man. Give me all the sun. I'll be red. It'll be great. It'll be glorious. I need palm trees this time of year, as you well know. Like, you just completely fried. So let's go. Let's do this thing.
Red skin and, what was it, poofy hair because you forgot your hair product the other day? I wish I could have been there to see you forget your hair product.
God, I was so that just really threw me for a major league loop. I was like, really? Really, at this point in the season, you forgot the gel? How can you do that?
How will life go on?
I soldiered on, man. Toughness.
Mental fortitude. That is what we associate with Mike Giardi.
Exactly.
Anytime he comes on the show. Get out of here already.
All right. See you later.
That's Mike Giardi with us on 104.5 The Zone. So, I mean, Mike told us last year, literally on this date, a year ago today. It's like when Facebook sends you one of those annoying memory notifications from things you probably don't want to remember. It's 1 year ago today that Tom Brady was, quote, unquote, retiring. It lasted for 40 days. Then he came back to quarterback the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, make the playoffs, but struggle to an under 500 season. Today, his retirement feels a little more real because it's coming from him personally and with no mincing of words. Mike told us then that he didn't believe Brady a year ago, and at this point he thinks this is the real deal. So we'll see what happens. 615-737-1045. Now what most interests you about the quarterback market? We can talk about that later on in the show. In the meantime, we have Lucas's SEC observations coming up next. Live from Mobile, it's 104.5 The Zone. We got SEC observations, easy for me to say. Live from Mobile, Alabama. Going to do the dumbest thing in sports this week at 11 o'clock. Make sure you have your nominees prepared. Kirby's going to participate. I'm sure we're all very excited. Our coverage here in Mobile, as always, made possible by our incredible partners who have done so well to send us down. Ramon, Kayla, Will, myself, and Kirby Allen Kirby in tow. Many thanks to Two Rivers Ford, to Scoreboard Bar and Grill, and to Mitsubishi Electric. One more day down here for us, including today. And certainly looking forward to catching what we can of practice. Weather's going to get a little sketchy tomorrow, so I don't know if that's going to be open to the media, but certainly we will do our best to make sure that we can continue to provide you exceptional coverage. We have SEC observations, as is the custom on Wednesday. Lucas, let's do a little basketball, shall we?
Yeah, and there were games last night, but I want to go back to Saturday in the SEC Big 12 Challenge, which we've talked about a little bit, but largely having to do with Tennessee and their win over Texas. Obviously, the SEC got smoked. It was a bad day for the SEC against what is top to bottom the best conference in college basketball this year in the Big 12. The SEC goes 3-7, but you could argue that the three best wins, apart from Oklahoma completely dismantling Alabama, did come from the SEC against the Big 12. The Tennessee win over Texas was impressive, was the best offensive outing of the season. And then the other two were signature wins for first-year head coaches, as Mississippi State defeats number 11 TCU, and Dennis Gates and Mizzou get a big win against number 12 Iowa State. So shout out to those two programs, couple first-year head coaches getting it done against top 15 opponents. But I went through and I kind of filtered out the AP Top 25 to figure out, okay, just how much of a disparity is there between the Big 12 and everybody else. And I tried to find out how many teams from each conference are ranked. Can you tell me, Buck, how many Big 10 teams are ranked and which ones they are?
Oh, God.
Let's test your Indiana basketball knowledge.
Well, Purdue's number one.
Yes, Purdue's the number one team.
Indiana lost last night to Maryland. They are still in the rankings, though, as of today, unfortunately.
They will be until next weekend.
Yeah, that's right. Ohio State is not ranked. Northwestern is not ranked. Penn State is not ranked. Is there 4 Big 10 teams that are ranked right now?
Nope. You already said them. Purdue and Indiana. It's just the two.
Oh, God.
Very large gap between Purdue and everybody else in the Big 10 right now.
Oh, no.
Literally the number one team in the country that has one loss to its name, inexplicably to Rutgers, and everybody else. Indiana's the number 21 team in the country at the moment. They probably right. Next week it might be just Purdue.
I swear to God, it's so irritating. They won 5 in a row, and I'm literally in a group text because people are excited for Indiana-Purdue. Obviously, it's the only ranked, currently, the only ranked matchup between Big Ten teams that's coming up on Saturday. So I'm in a group text, and my buddies were asking me, should I bet Indiana minus the 3 on the road? And I said, absolutely not. Or I'm sorry, Maryland was a favorite at home. Maryland minus 3, Hoosiers plus 3. I said, absolutely, you never bet Indiana in a road game, and of course they just poop themselves. It's terrible. Kills me every time.
How many SEC teams are ranked, and which ones are they?
Oh, Tennessee is obviously ranked. Kentucky is not in the rankings currently.
Correct.
Arkansas is not ranked.
Nope.
Alabama is.
Yep.
Florida not ranked. Georgia not ranked.
There's one more. There's 3.
Oh, Texas A&M.
No, Auburn is the number 25 team in the country.
Auburn's down to 25? What happened?
Auburn's had some struggles recently. They also lost in the SEC Big 12 Challenge. They lost in Ron Slay's analyst debut on ESPN2 against Texas A&M. That was a home loss for the Tigers. Who was Auburn's loss? It was not a good one over the weekend. West Virginia, a West Virginia team that is 13-8, found a way to beat Auburn at home on Saturday. So Tennessee plays Auburn, by the way, coming up. I believe that game is this Saturday. Tennessee at home against Auburn this weekend on ESPN, Saturday afternoon. So just 3 SEC teams in the top 25. The Big 12 have 6. I mean, and they have the most by a large margin. That is by far the deepest conference in college basketball at the moment. When you look at Kansas State and Kansas, by the way, big win over K-State just last night. Texas and Baylor and Iowa State and TCU. I mean, these are all teams that could make some type of run. And then when you look around, the Big East is really impressive, man. The Big East has been solid this year. I mean, UConn has found their way in the top 25. There are 4 teams ranked in the Big East at the moment. Marquette is the number 14 team in the country. So it's interesting looking around and parsing through the top 25 and seeing which conferences are better than others. I think the Big East is the second best conference top to bottom in the country right now, which is insane. And the ACC, man, the ACC has 3 teams that are ranked, but none of them feel like they could be a threat at any point. Like Virginia's the number 6 team in the country, but I don't know. There's nothing about Virginia basketball that I think really scares you right now, but I guess that is sort of the case with Tony Bennett teams. They just kind of want to choke the life out of you a little bit.
Yeah, and they can with that kind of system that they run, they can get really anybody, particularly in the conference, at any point if they just have like an off-shooting night.
Yeah, but Clemson's the number 20 team in the country. Miami's the number 23 team in the country. But really, this college basketball season has been all about the Big 12. Last night, though, a few games, like you said, Kentucky goes to Ole Miss. Before we get to Vanderbilt and Alabama's bounce back.
Well, no, wait. That we can't do that here. I have to have that for 11.
You want to wait? Okay. Well, then
have to have that for 11.
Well, let's talk about this. Well, Kentucky has certainly turned it around in conference play. They did lose to Kansas on Saturday in the SEC Big 12 Challenge, but I was watching that Kentucky-Ole Miss game last night, a 75-68 win for the Cats in Oxford. Ole Miss drops to 9-13, and just thinking, you know, the Kermit Davis era in Oxford has been really disappointing to me. I really thought that was a great hire by Ole Miss with what he accomplished at MTSU, the big upset win over Michigan State, the consistent success he found with the Blue Raiders. And, man, he just has not really been able to put it together consistently in Oxford.
No, and honestly, I mean, you bring up his success at MTSU. Like, those were legitimately fun teams. Beyond the big Michigan State upset a couple of years ago in the tournament, he had built a competitive program, and it felt like he had legitimate momentum and traction. And they've had like years where they have been solid and competitive. They've made the SEC tournament a couple. I mean, they've made the SEC conference tournament a little more interesting in the early seasons for Kermit Davis down there. Because how long did you say he's been down there?
I'm going to say Kermit's been down there at least 4 years. I'm going to say this is his. I'll check. I think this might be his 5th year in Oxford.
And honestly, it's been a decline. They haven't really been able to get their feet under them after having early success.
Yeah, hired in 2018. In 2018 at Ole Miss.
So this is going. So this is season number 5 for him, as you said.
But you're right. It's quite literally a decline because he has a nice first year. 20 wins. He gets them into the dance. You know, eliminated in the first round of the tournament, but they go 20-13. And then year 2, 15-17. Year 3, 16-12. Year 4, 13-19. And then sitting here in year 5, and they are 9-12.
Now,
meanwhile, by the way, former Ole Miss head coach Andy Kennedy doing a nice job at UAB.
So have you seen this tweet from Joe Lunardi about the Tennessee and potentially as a 1 seed? He's got a couple of notes. It's, I guess, for their pregame broadcast tonight on ESPN. So there's notes here about Penn State at Purdue, Tennessee at Florida, Pitt at North Carolina, Oklahoma State at Oklahoma. Here's what it says about Tennessee. Tennessee has fallen behind Kansas by the slimmest of margins for the last number 1 seed. The Vols would reclaim that spot with a win on the road over the Gators. Does that sound right to you?
There's got to be a bunch of metrics in there regarding strength of schedule that would give Lunardi reason to say that just because of the strength of the Big 12.
It's like craziness to me. I mean, yes, you're right. We talked about the Big 12 as the best conference in college basketball this year, but that's kind of nonsense.
I agree with you. Tennessee's only lost 3 games this year. Tennessee, I won't say smoked Kansas in the battle for Atlantis to win that thing early in the season, but Kansas never really felt like it was in that game. The Vols took a lead early, and they just sort of kept them at arm's length the entire way. That was one of their best defensive performances of the season. That just has to be the nature of the Big 12 and how on any given week you can get a quad 1 or 2 win in that conference, just like Kansas did last night against Kansas State. But yeah, if it came down to that and Tennessee getting a 1 seed or Tennessee or Kansas and Kansas getting it despite the Vols winning head to head, I'm sure there would be Joe Lunardi would have to probably block off his mentions
Twitter,
for a little while. Yeah, Vol Twitter would come at him pretty hard. But look, Tennessee should beat Florida. I mean, that's a Florida team that was lifeless in the SEC Big 12 Challenge on Saturday. Tennessee should take care of business in Gainesville tonight. And Alabama, Tennessee look like they're on a collision course to potentially play the SEC regular season championship game in a couple of weeks when they meet in Knoxville.
So here are the top seeds currently, and this is February 1st, so there's obviously time, and the games tonight will impact that, according to the analysis. But Lunardi's got Purdue, Alabama, Houston, and Kansas as the number 1 seeds. Tennessee as the first number 2 seed, with Arizona, UCLA, and the team that Tennessee just recently beat in the Big 12 SEC Challenge, Texas. He's saying, as we mentioned, that beating the Gators, a down bad Florida team, on the road would be enough to put them in over Kansas, and these things will continue to fluctuate as the regular season gets closer and closer. We're in the final month, really, better part of the final month of the college basketball regular season, which is crazy because it feels like we just got here, but that's because football's just starting to wrap up.
Yeah, and Purdue they host Penn State tonight. So 2 of those teams play tonight, Tennessee and Purdue.
Okay, so we will see what happens with the Vols at this point.
But it's going to be touch and go because Tennessee plays Auburn on Saturday. That's an opportunity for a ranked conference win. Kansas plays number 13 Iowa State on Saturday. So, again, Kansas is just going to have more opportunities for those quad 1 wins down the stretch in conference play just because of how much better the Big 12 has been this year. So that just means Tennessee can't really afford to slip up if they do want to grab that 1 seed.
615-737-1045 is how you join us at any point. Coming up next, it's one of our favorite things each and every week. It's literally the dumbest thing in sports this week. Kirby Allen Kirby will join us. It will be a great, well, Kirby's been here the whole time, but Kirby will turn on his microphone and we will get into whatever's rattling around in that beautiful, brilliant head of his, as well as ours as well. If you want to submit your own, you know the number. Just giving it to you. The dumbest thing in sports this week is next.
It is 11:02. Good morning from the Superbook.com Sports Desk. I'm Lucas Panzica. It is official. The GOAT is hanging it up again. Tom Brady announced on social media this morning that he is retiring, this time for good.
Thank you guys for allowing me to live my absolute dream. I wouldn't change a thing. Love you all.
The 45-year-old's career ends with 7 Super Bowls and as the all-time leader in regular season touchdowns, playoff passing yards, playoff touchdowns, and wins in NFL history. More head coaching vacancies in the NFL were filled on Tuesday, including in the AFC South, as 49ers defensive coordinator DeMeco Ryans will be the head coach of the Houston Texans, where he played the majority of his NFL career as a linebacker. And the Sean Payton sweepstakes have ended. The Denver Broncos are hiring Payton and sending a 2023 first-round pick and a 2024 second-round pick to New Orleans. They will also receive a Saints third-rounder. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Second hour underway. Welcome into Mobile, Alabama. Welcome back if you've been hanging out here with us. We're broadcasting live from the Reese Senior Bowl. Ramon, Kayla, Will, and myself for at least one more day, including this one. We're happy to have you here no matter where you're listening. Kirby Allen Kirby's here with me. Lucas is back in the studio, and we have a lot more to discuss. You're going to hear from Vols quarterback Hendon Hooker. Caught up with him a little bit earlier this morning. Got a conversation that we will play for you in the noon hour. In the meantime, we got one of our favorite things. It is time for our weekly Wednesday tradition, about 5 minutes past, but still, let's do the dumbest thing in sports.
Let's be honest. You've already seen something this week that made you say,
What the is this?
That's bullshit.
What the hell? Give me some more now.
something so mind-numbingly idiotic that you just want to get it off your chest.
Dumber than a second coat of paint.
Some idiot.
You are really dumb. For real.
It's the dumbest thing in sports this week on the Buck Rising Show.
It certainly is. It's made possible by Painter Ready Murfreesboro. Call them 615-PAINTER for a quote or visit www.painterreadymurfreesboro.com. So, what's the dumbest thing in sports this week? I think there's a variety of different things to pick from, but if you gentlemen will allow me, I will take the first swing. Yesterday, I'm sitting at the practices for the American team, okay? I'm watching offensive linemen. I'm keeping track of wide receivers. I'm learning new names who I may not have gotten to in my draft preparation yet, and kind of seeing who stands out, talking to a bunch of people who are media friends of mine that are here in town for the same thing, catching up, doing, comparing notes, all sorts of things that you're supposed to do when you're down here doing legwork at the Senior Bowl. And then all of a sudden I start getting tweets of a screenshot from this app called Mobile Patrol. Kirby, are you familiar with this Mobile Patrol? You don't strike me as somebody who has many apps on your phone.
I don't have a whole lot of apps. I did see the Instagram post, and then they discussed that, and I thought, that's kind of stupid. But anyway.
Yes, in fact, it's the dumbest thing in sports this week. Todd Downing, it's a second mugshot of former now Titans offensive coordinator Todd Downing. And so I'm being once it's out there, this starts to get sent to me fast and furiously from a lot of you on Twitter. And listen, I appreciate you guys trying to make sure that I'm informed. If there's something that I miss, I'm certainly not advocating for you guys to not tweet me with stuff like this. That's not what I'm saying at all. But immediately, because this second mugshot was out there, the conclusion was drawn on the internet that Todd Downing had gotten a second DUI. Now, I was not going to interact with these posts or tweets. I was not going to engage. I was not going to say anything about it until such time as I had to get on the phone with the Williamson County Sheriff's Department and find out, hey, what's the deal? where is this something that's photoshopped? They had a time that he was booked in to the Williamson County Jail at 1:35 p.m. yesterday. Can you fill me in on what exactly is happening with this, and can I speak intelligently on it before people run with whatever they feel on the internet, because you may have some still ill will towards a person who did nothing but coach for your football team, and now you wish for terrible things for what other reason other than people are super hateful. So we get on the phone with the Williamson County Sheriff's Department, and it is concluded that Todd Downing has not gotten a second DUI, but this is a consequence from his initial driving under the influence circumstance that he has to serve 48 hours in the Williamson County Jail as a part of the punishment for the driving under the influence circumstance that happened back in November. This was good work by my buddy Sam Phelan at A to Z Sports, who was able to get the confirmation officially. His time served will go through February 2nd at 10 a.m., at which point he will be released, which is, of course, tomorrow.
About 24 hours.
So less than the 48 hours that I was, because I'm just sitting there doing research on my phone trying to figure out exactly what happened. So less than 24 hours Todd Downing will spend in the Williamson County Jail. The dumbest thing in sports this week is people who cannot wait for the information to be out there. They just run erroneously with this information for a person who's always been, listen, the circumstances are entirely of his own making. He will deal with the consequences. He has lost his job in part because of it. There is no reason to further bury this man other than people enjoy making fun of other people on social media. The dumbest thing in sports this week is just not taking a second to allow people to find out exactly what's happened before you start drawing your own conclusions on social media. That's my dumbest thing in sports this week.
Two quick things on that. Number one,
Please.
You're absolutely right. Number two, you're also asking the internet to be nuanced and civil.
Okay, but at the moment, like, should I just eat it quietly and go about my day and not be pissed about it? No, I feel like it's still, just because it's inevitable, and I know it's going to happen every time I open my phone and my face gets melted with stupidity, because that's all that exists on the internet for the most part, by the way, of which I'm a product. Shout out the internet. I would say to you that, I'm not going to stop complaining about it, because I feel like, that it just... You can't just sit down and let people run recklessly. There has to be some degree of public shame for these people who are doing these things that need to just kind of take a step back, because just maybe, dear God, maybe they'll think twice before they slander somebody on the internet.
Okay, so I have two that I'm torn between. So would you like to hear my dumbest thing in sports this week about the Florida Gators or about Joey Bosa? Both of which I have used before.
Wait, used before?
Oh, you can't do retreads, right?
Well, it's not the same reason, but I have I have had Florida and Joey Bosa as my dumbest thing in sports this week before, but this is for entirely different circumstances.
Okay. Let's go with. Wait, is there any Joey Bosa audio associated with this that'll make me laugh because he sounds like a swamp monster?
I can't play it.
Okay. No, you can't play it.
Go with the Bosa.
Excellent. Let's do Bosa.
Joey Bosa was at the 49ers-Eagles game in Philadelphia, the NFC Championship, on Sunday to support his brother Nick, wearing his 49ers gear. That's great. That's fine. He appeared to be there with his family, maybe his girlfriend. I'm not sure. But plenty of videos circulating of Eagles fans the second they see Joey Bosa, obviously going at him, screaming at him, yelling, "Joey, where are the Chargers? Joey, what about are you going to pay your fine? Joey, you going to get another fine today?" They're Eagles fans. They're doing what they do. My dumbest thing in sports this week is Joey Bosa completely succumbing to it and screaming back at every Eagles fan that tries to interact with him, saying, "I'm rich," and cussing at him. And he said, "I can pay the fine because I'm rich. You're a bleeping loser." Joey Bosa came off so pathetic over the weekend. Yeah, small time. Joey Bosa, just ignore him. You make yourself look so bad when you are having to be basically held back by your family because you have to yell back at this 23-year-old Eagles fan that is just thrilled that he even got a response from you with his phone out, filming you while he yells at you. And Joey was like, "Oh, are you Snapchatting that for all your little buddies?" Like, Joey thought that he was getting these Eagles fans back. He thought he was really, I don't know. Yeah, got, kind of like the refs do when they go back in the locker room after a game. Like, yeah, got that guy, that loser. Yeah, that's what Joey Bosa thought he was doing to Eagles fans, when in reality, he just made himself look small time and look petty for cussing out Eagles fans that are yelling at him and basically just telling them that he makes more money than them.
Now, wait. You asking the defensive end rage monster to be more discerning than my Twitter mentions is basically the exact same thing.
Fair enough.
I feel like we're on the same playing field.
Well, also kind of disqualified himself because Eagles fans are Eagles fans and they're idiots.
I know.
They threw batteries at Santa Claus.
Okay, but Kirby, I love them. I love them. They Buffalo.
I do too. I don't know.
Really
I really like Eagles. Might be my favorite fan base.
I was just getting
league.
ready to say that. Now let me clarify. Okay, as far as the goodwill that is done by a fan base and the way that a community rallies together around a particular sporting team, there is no greater or more charitable fan base than the Buffalo Bills, than Bills Mafia, because the way that they raise funds for players who. Foundations, the DeMar Hamlin situation, obviously. They have done things in years past for Josh Allen's foundation, and really, really made a difference. But Eagles fans, I have been in love with them since the Titans-Eagles game, for when they turn around at the Titans onyship suite as A.J. Brown is going crazy and they're just double middle fingering the Titans ownership saying, thanks for A.J., you losers. It just delights me. It's a different kind of love, but I think it may be the greater love. I love Philadelphia sports fans.
You like watching a train wreck.
Yes.
Well, it's the way
I do this.
It's the way they lean in, It's the way because every fan base has scumbags, but Eagles fans completely embrace it, and you kind of have a level of respect for that. And also, totally separate, I think "Fly Eagles Fly" is the best anthem of any NFL fan base in the league.
I think it's dumb.
I love "Fly Eagles Fly." I gotta admit, I enjoy that. It was cool being at the link and hearing that in person, something that has been sung in that stadium for decades and decades.
Kirby, what's the dumbest thing in sports this morning?
Mock drafts.
Now, wait.
I'm not even going to blink. Okay, look, when they first came about in the 80s and 90s, when your sports information came from a 4-letter network and or print, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. This is 2023. You've got more power in the palm of your hand than NASA used to put 14 missions into space, okay? Mm-hmm. Before the dude putting the mock draft together, or about the same time, what a team's thinking. Mm-hmm. So why do we spend 4 months listening to various Mel Kiper Jr. wannabes explain to us what the team's going to do when they don't know? There could be a last-second trade. They might go with somebody else. Somebody else gets fixed. Somebody moves up. Somebody moves back. Let's just wait to see what happens. And then we can get upset or excited, but we spend way too much energy and too much importance for mock drafts.
615-737-1045 is the number. That's how you let us know what your dumbest thing in sports this week is. I'm going to push back on Kirby's, but we will do that coming up next. Live from Mobile, where the site of the mock drafts, the mock draft mania begins first in here. Right. Not only does the NFL, you've literally spat upon the event that we are here, Kirby,
I didn't say anything about the draft.
Your disdain for mock drafts.
Someone's going to throw a bag over Kirby's head and drag him out of there.
I'll be missing tomorrow.
A bag filled with Reese's. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone. Welcome back. We are currently at the Mobile Convention Center, Kirby Allen Kirby and myself, for a couple more hours, about an hour and a half to go in the show. We're in the middle of the dumbest thing in sports this week. It's presented by Painter Ready Murfreesboro. 615-737-1045 is how you tell us what the dumbest thing in sports this week is. I'm going to push back on Kirby's mock draft hatred in just a second, but I know we have phone calls, so let's mix in a few. How about Eric, who is always exceptional at this game? Eric, what's the dumbest thing in sports this week?
Hey, guys. I actually remember I told you, Buck, last week I had two, and I said, well, this one we'll keep for next week because I actually found out about this last Wednesday morning. But my dumbest thing in sports has to go to pitcher Mike Clevenger of the Chicago White Sox. And I heard about this last Wednesday morning. He, of course, signed a one-year deal with the White Sox. There's a woman who he's involved with, who he has a child with, who is claiming that he slapped her and then he took chewing tobacco and threw it on his child. And here's what makes this story even far worse. He has also been apparently involved with two other women, and he also has children by both of those women. So he's involved with three different women and has children by all three, and those other two women are claiming he's had issues with them as well. Even if the abuse or anything it didn't happen, as he claims, he's denying it, the fact that you're involved with three different women and have children from all of those three relationships, to me, tells me you're just an idiot. So, Mike Clevenger, you're my dumbest thing in sports. Guys, y'all take care, and we'll talk to you soon.
Oh, my God. I don't know how I missed this story. I'm looking at a report a week ago. Thank you for the call, Eric. Alden Gonzalez at ESPN has a report from January 24th that Mike Clevenger is under investigation for allegedly violating the Major League Baseball domestic violence policy, with the details that Eric just laid out. Apparently, the woman, Olivia Feinstead, gave an interview to The Athletic in which she agreed to go on the record and be named in, which, by the way, good of her and brave of her to do, because a lot of times those things can obviously lead to public pressure and players, especially with fan bases and followings, those people can gravitate towards you on social media in ways that are particularly toxic. But yes, quote, several acts of domestic violence and child abuse, including chew spit on a screaming infant child and strangling the mother of the child. Again, allegedly, and accusations at this point. As the MLB continues their investigation, obviously, the necessary authorities involved in that as well. It's difficult for me to pivot, Lucas, from that to making fun of Kirby and his mock draft stuff. I don't know how I'm going to do that gracefully. But, Kirby, you understand that there's literally the reason that this thing is such a big deal, not the only reason that this thing is such a big deal. Football is obviously the reason, but there's a literal industry built off your hatred for mock drafts.
Well, I mean, yeah, and rightfully so.
Well, so you're not railing against that people are making money off them. You're just railing against their general existence.
Their existence. I don't care about the individuals. I'm not hating on a person. I'm thinking, like, isn't it a time with technology we could find something else to do that gives us other information about what's going on in the league? Let the league have its exposure. I love football. I mean, any kind of football. Maybe Australian football might be the exception, but
what do you have against the Australians?
Well, raincoats and flags, I mean, what?
I don't know.
You look it up. ESPN in its early years used to broadcast Australian rules football.
Okay.
It's not rugby. It's a weird sport. And the referees wear like a smock, looks like a trench coat, a pith helmet, and they have a flag in each hand, and they would run out and stand really and signal whatever the call was.
Are you trying to sell me on this sport? This sounds awesome.
This is Lucas's next obsession, is what you're describing.
My other, I mean, like Eric, I had a couple of other options, the other ones, but I won't go into those. But I'm going to defend my point here. We've got all the information. We already have it.
Yes.
We don't need 2,500 people giving us their rendition of what we've already read.
Kirby, think of it as fan fiction.
I don't deal with fiction much. I mean, it's like I like reality.
He has no time for your fictional.
I live in the real world. I live in the moment. When I was a child.
Oh, God.
No, I'm saying, well, I'm an old man. I have to live with what's real.
Not yet. You're not 60 yet. Relax.
What was it, the old Ross Perot? I'm going to smell it, taste it, feel it, and run it through my lower intestine. I have to know if it's real.
What?
That was a joke.
I'm so scared.
I think they serve a purpose for simply seeing where guys are estimated to land, not necessarily with that specific team, but okay, this guy's being viewed as a day one, day two type of guy. I do think that trades should be forever banned from mock drafts.
Well,
that is the dumbest thing.
That's just nonsensical.
Formulating trades in your brain, like, I think this GM would send this player and this pick over here, and this GM would agree to it and send it. Like that is nonsensical.
We call that hyperbole in the real world. But my point is this: we get mock drafts on what order will the teams draft, what will they change to, what players will they draft, and then we flip that and then we go, well, we're just going to talk about the players. Well, this guy's going to be drafted first. He's going to be drafted 8th. They have we all know what their skill levels are, whether there's an injury and what kind of dirt's going to come out on this guy and what's going to – it's a lot of mudslinging and speculation.
Sure. Now, here's what I will say, Kirby. The only defense I have of them is this, because I also find them deeply frustrating, and as Lucas said, the trades things, just send them into the sun. It's not worth the time that it takes to put them together. But I think that the reason why I value them is because when I get done with an NFL season – and obviously, I pay closer attention to college football now because I've got 3 hours of talk radio to do, and
sure.
It is what it is. But by the time I get done with an NFL season, my brain is fried, and there are a million different prospects that you have to learn, and team needs beyond the team that I cover on a day-to-day basis that I need to catch up on. Now, credible ones versus the ones that you'll find just flying around on Twitter because somebody's got a blog.
Sure.
There's a difference. So Again, you're asking people to be discerning. I would say, though, that it does help me kind of get up to speed before events like this so that I can have a better idea, just a general knowledge of players, see what they did this season, which teams have needs where, and then I can move forward and kind of help my analysis and continue to do my own legwork. It's just a good place for me to kind of catch up.
Well, what I heard in that was that I'm lazy, and so I'll take information from them to help me prepare for later, and I'm joshing you.
That's correct.
My point is this.
That is correct.
We haven't gotten to the Super Bowl yet, and there are already people putting mock drafts together and putting stuff out there as to whom they feel like this team should take, and that it's like, really? Can we get to March before we start this stuff?
That's not how this works.
No, I guess not.
Doug has the dumbest thing in sports this week. Go ahead, Doug.
Okay, the Ravens' Tyler Huntley has thrown 2 touchdown passes this year, and he was selected to be the 3rd quarterback in this year's Pro Bowl.
He's replacing. He wasn't selected. He's replacing. That's an important clarification. But yeah, listen, I'm not mad at Tyler Huntley. I'm not mad at Tyler Huntley at all. Nobody should be. Good for him for getting to the Pro Bowl.
How surprised do you think he was?
Oh, I bet he's shocked.
When he got that phone, like, wait, no, that can't be.
What was that? What was the show on MTV for the longest? I don't think Ashton Kutcher was the host where they'd prank celebrities.
Punked, yeah. Punked
was it Ashton Kutcher?
Yeah, Punked.
Okay, Punked was a great show until they got into some legal problems because some of the reactions that they would get would be.
Yeah, Tyler Huntley, if this was 15 years ago, probably would look around like, all right, Ashton, come on.
Where's he at? Where are you hiding? He's looking at trash cans, ducking under tables. No, Tyler Huntley did not get punked. It is a circumstance that it happens every year, right? Andy Dalton has been to a Pro Bowl,
but not like this, Buck. Not like this.
No, not like this.
Yeah,
no.
This is 6 games, 2 touchdowns, 3 picks. This is quite literally like screw it, just throw Huntley in there.
Yeah, but the whole literally, you've just described the whole Pro Bowl experience. Screw it, just put somebody in there.
No, it gets
because they're playing dodgeball and doing long drive competitions at the Pro Bowl now.
It is the least relevant all-star, quote-unquote all-star game in all of sports.
Now, listen, they can't get rid of it because there's financial incentives associated with it. Like we'll just use who's a Pro Bowler in the Titans roster.
Morgan Cox.
I don't know. I think Morgan Cox has been to the Pro Bowl 5 times.
Been a bunch of times, and he actually is like the best long snapper in the league. So he deservedly has been to several Pro Bowls.
Sure. So, but when you mention when I write an article about Morgan Cox or Taylor Lewan, what's the first thing that comes before their name? The 3-time Pro Bowler or the 5-time Pro Bowler.
We need to stop that.
I would love to stop that, but it's incumbent upon the agents and the players to stop pushing for contract incentives that give them more financial incentive to have things like the Pro Bowl involved.
Oddly, the Pro Bowl was my other option because now that we know what it does to players, back in the day, the Pro Bowl was something they played it after the Super Bowl and everybody could participate. Now it's before and no one participates and they do all that other stuff. Why don't you just have a meet and greet kind of thing? Bring them all out there. They don't have to compete. They have to beat up their bodies.
Like a luncheon.
Yeah. They can play pickleball.
A Pro Bowl. That's probably one of the events.
They basically are.
They basically are.
Now,
at this point.
do Pat Mahomes and Creed Humphrey and Chris Jones, they still get that Pro Bowl on their resume?
No, because they're not. They're not considered Pro Bowls. Pro Bowlers. Yeah. No, it is. The whole thing is garbage. It needs to be reconfigured, and instead they're putting on a dodgeball tournament with the Mannings as coaches because TV. Jimmy in Franklin is next with the dumbest thing in sports. 615-737-1045 is how you submit your nomination. Hey, Jimmy.
Hey, guys. Thanks. All good stuff. All good stuff. My dumbest thing is every year they make us wait an extra week for the actual Super Bowl game, and instead of having it on a Saturday night so we have Sunday to recover, they keep it on a Sunday. I mean, can they not just move it to Saturdays? If they're going to make us wait longer than a week, then why did you just move it to Saturday night?
I could not agree with you more. I know, and we'll get into some controversy here, I know that federal oversight is something that a portion of the population would like to fight against. I would like federal oversight as to Super Bowl Saturday as opposed to Super Bowl Sunday. I think the government needs to get involved. I think it needs to be declared a national holiday.
Or at least make Monday the national holiday.
Agreed. Just do something so that we have a day to recover and to mourn the loss of football in our lives. Because honestly, that's the most directionless I feel at any point in the year is on the Monday after the Super Bowl, where I'm just or rather the Tuesday after the Super Bowl, where I'm just the hell do I do with myself? It's basically been the last month of my life, or at least I have 3 hours of radio to kind of fill the void. But when the Titans don't make the playoffs for the first time since 2018, I'm looking around at my weekends be like, oh, I have weekends.
Well, on something that could actually relate with people, the Monday after the Super Bowl is the worst, I feel, physically, of any day in the year. And that's simply because of the amount of food on Super Bowl Sunday.
No, it's got nothing. It's got nothing to do with a booze habit or anything like that. It's just because Lucas is a human garbage disposal and will literally eat anything. It doesn't matter if it's good Super Bowl Sunday food, bad Super Bowl Sunday food. It could be the taco truck flavored jelly beans that you were shoveling in your face a couple of months ago.
I have to have a little bit of everything. So I have to stop myself from going to Super Bowl parties where everybody brings something because it has nothing to do with alcohol. I'm sure for some people that is why Super Bowl the Monday after is the worst day of the year. But for me, it's, I got to have the Rotel, and I'm going to have a hot dog, and I'm going to eat 8 or 9 wings, and I'm going to just be snacking on chips the entire time. It's I have to have a little bit of everything, and I feel like a failure if I don't.
Is Rotel the block cheese that you melt or whatever?
It's a cheese dip that you make with multiple things in it. Yes, you take block cheese and eventually melt it down into a semi-liquid
with the
form.
Tomatoes and green chilies and sometimes the meat. Yeah,
jalapenos.
Look at him; he's getting excited back there.
I like Rotel.
Not you, Kirby.
yeah, Lucas. Hey, he got me excited.
Have we ever sent Kirby back to the shadows?
Oh no, I don't know.
Kirby, do you know what that means?
No, but I'm scared.
Back to the shadows.
So
he doesn't do the fading away that Robert does. For Kirby's been waiting for me to send him back to the shadows so he can go smoke a cigarette at this point.
We did pivot from your original dumbest thing in sports. We purposely did not talk about Alabama's bounce back win yesterday over Vanderbilt because you were saving it for your dumbest thing in sports, but you changed it during the break. So I'm genuinely curious. Obviously, Alabama just absolutely demolishes Vanderbilt 101-44, shaking off that Oklahoma loss. But why was Vanderbilt initially your dumbest thing in sports?
I'm sorry. Slow down and say that score again.
Is that why?
That's the dumbest thing in sports this week.
101-44.
101-44 is the final score of an Alabama-Vanderbilt game last night.
It was 43-15 at the half.
I thought I was having a stroke or something. I thought something with my vision was messed up. The fact that I wasn't that I was getting dyslexic with numbers or something like that.
Usually when a team is up 43-15 at the half, you're like, my goodness, they're on pace to put up almost 85 points. They're definitely going to, take the foot off the gas at some point, and they'll probably end up scoring 70, 75. No, they scored 58 in the second half to get over 100.
So here's the thing. Okay, I don't publicly fire people on the air. I don't publicly demand for people's jobs. I think it's one of the most reckless things that people in sports media do. But if you're Vanderbilt and you're having another middling season under Jerry Stackhouse, again with not much sign of life and certainly making a massive difference without even the star power of a Scottie Pippen Jr. to kind of keep you distracted, because at least you got somebody out there putting up 20 and 10 a night. Do you not have to consider making a change at some point, whether it's at the end of the season or right now when your team loses 101 to 40? What was it, 101 to 44?
101 to 44. What Stackhouse has done is taken Vanderbilt from being just outright bad, just awful, to incredibly average. Now, last night was bad. I mean, that's as bad as it gets. I do think that was also just an Alabama revenge thing of just pissed off after what happened to them.
Against Vandy,
Against Oklahoma. No, it's not taking out revenge on Vandy. It's just taking out revenge on everything. After giving up 93 points and getting blown out by an Oklahoma team that is not very good, Alabama turned around and went 19 of 41 from three. I just saw that number. They attempted 41 three-pointers.
That's right.
And hit 19. 46% from three, shooting 41. That is an absurd number. Vandy went 3 of 30. But
Nate Oates looked around and said, I am out for blood. I am out for blood. Finish them. And Vanderbilt was the recipient of that.
I'm astounded by that 3-point number. But Vanderbilt is now just so perpetually average. They are so 500 that it hurts. Like last year, they finished 19 and 17. Nice little NIT quarterfinal run to cap it. But it felt like the entirety of last season, Vanderbilt was 500 the entire way. They'd win one and lose one, and win one and lose one. And it's been that way this year as well. They are now 10 and 12, but I guarantee you in 1 to 2 weeks, they will be right back at 500 and just continue to be perpetually average.
God, I'm so glad that we circled back around to that, because Vandy, I was hate tweeting through Indiana losing to Maryland on the road last night, and then I had a couple of Vandy fans being like, please look at the Vandy score and tell me how bad you're hurting right now. And I didn't do it until after the game, because I was focused on what was in front of me and just, self-loathing, as I tend to do during watching my favorite team play. But once I glanced over at that Vandy score, Lucas, I'm telling you, I almost fell out of my chair. Like, I'm not even being dramatic. Like, I almost fell over.
My other dumbest thing in sports this week was going to be Florida, because Jaden Rashada has a new landing spot. You see this?
Oh, no.
He's heading to Arizona State. He's heading to Arizona State. No NIL deal in place.
What?
Among the potential suitors, he was going to land at either Cal, Washington, TCU, or Arizona State. So Florida was about to pay $13 million in NIL money to the guy that his other options were Cal, Washington, TCU, and Arizona State. So Florida, also my dumbest thing in sports this week, for also the check bouncing and not even being able to pay what they promised to a guy that is nowhere even near close to worth $13 million.
I love the idea that he probably just saw one of these Arizona State pool parties, or just generally the campus.
His dad went there. He's a West Coast kid. They have a good relationship with the coaching staff, but that's got to be a tough pill to swallow for Florida fans.
And not for Jalen Rashada. Literally more than half the campus is naked all the time. He's going to have a great time there. Let us get into a report. Well, actually, let's talk about these head coaching hires. We're going to get into some Senior Bowl prospects as well, and some news on movement around this year's first overall pick. Don't forget that Hendon Hooker, former Vols quarterback, who's down here at the Senior Bowl, he's going to join us at 12:20. So you'll look forward to that conversation live from Mobile. It's 104.5 The Zone. I got Kirby singing along in the background. A little afternoon delight in the form of Senior Bowl practice, I suppose.
My younger sister's favorite song.
It's a very, very soothing tone.
Think about what the movie Anchorman did for this song.
The movie Anchorman, not more than the song itself. Are you having a moment where you're making fun of me because I know Fleetwood Mac because of the cranberry spray or cranberry juice TikTok?
The song itself is great. First of all, don't sit here and compare Skyrocket's Afternoon Delight to Rumors and Fleetwood Mac.
It's an iconic song.
It is an iconic song, but you cannot deny that the wide-ranging cultural phenomenon that was Anchorman did not help this song's popularity.
This song came out in 1975 before Will Ferrell was born.
Yep.
So I think that it may have reinvigorated it because of the older folks that remembered it and introduced it to a younger generation. But this song was legendary long before anybody ever heard.
Yes, it reinvigorated it. Yes.
Now, wait, Kirby just said to you the same thing that I said to you, which is that a song was reinvigorated for a younger generation because of something that was widely spread in the public consciousness. You agree with me. You have to sit here. No, you don't get to talk. You have to sit here and eat it.
You're forgetting I control. You might be 7 hours away from me, but I still control your mic, Buck.
Not this time because you.
Oh, and he's done. Okay, Kirby. Buck's whole thing was the song Dreams by Fleetwood Mac was made popular by a TikTok, and he believes that a whole generation of people know that song just because of TikTok. I've heard Dreams played on radio stations and in department stores my entire life. And
because even it's Fleetwood Mac, dude.
It's Fleetwood Mac.
The greatest album that Fleetwood Mac, or one of the best damned albums of a decade.
One of the best albums of all time.
He's spinning this in ways that will make him look better, when in reality he is embarrassed that he agrees with me, even though he refuses to agree with me and instead is choosing to agree with you.
I'm embarrassed that you didn't know that Dreams, the album from Fleetwood Mac, stood on its own and didn't need any help from anything else.
That's fine. You can be embarrassed with me.
So what do you think? Do you think the White Album by the Beatles was just propped up because of what?
Oh, don't, Kirby. He has no idea what that is.
Maybe their accents. I'm just messing with him.
Yeah, I have a very eclectic music taste. I think it's very wide ranging. Even Lucas has complimented me on the things that I like to listen to.
It is wide ranging.
Dark Side of the Moon, top 10 album for 27 years.
Dark Side of the Moon. Buck, who's that? Who is that?
He doesn't know.
You cannot tell me you don't know. If you say you don't know who made that album, then you're just doing a bit at this point.
Which one's Pink?
Oh, is Pink Floyd a band?
Yes, it is.
Okay,
but it's not a person.
That might be one of the most offensive things you've ever said to me.
I know. I don't know that.
Is
I'm
Pink
actually
Floyd
go
a
out
band?
with him in public.
I mean, I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't like, I don't know, like Pink or Floyd. What was the clue? Pink or Floyd? I can't remember. Either way, it doesn't matter.
It was the singer was Roger Pink, and then the guitarist was Steve Floyd.
Roger Waters.
Yeah, I know.
But
Karen.
someone asked him, and
a
line he put in the song was "Which one's Pink?" because they didn't, the audiences.
How does it feel to have your words twisted, Lucas, and make you look stupid? How does it feel?
Jethro Tull, another band. But not a name, not a person's name.
Trippin' Titans on YouTube says, "Is Pink Floyd a band? I just died inside."
I don't
exactly. I think I threw up a little bit myself.
No, I was just making sure that I had the name right. I am generally familiar that there is a band called Pink Floyd, and I would probably know their songs if you played them for me. I just wouldn't necessarily know. It's like today. I don't know whose song is associated with who. All of it is
Lucas,
just kind
it's just
of
another
out
brick
there
in the wall,
ether.
buddy.
Just another brick in the wall, baby. That's right. Am I quoting lyrics for a band that I don't know? Is that what
Pink
you
Floyd,
just did to me? Okay.
Basically.
Excellent work by Kirby. We were supposed to talk about the Bears trading the first overall pick here. That devolved very quickly.
That's not very shocking, though, is it? The Bears sticking with Justin Fields.
Yeah, see you, Just.
I mean, you could have a discussion. It depends. I mean, they are dealing with a situation with Justin Fields where, like, I've talked to Greg Cosell about this. Oh, it's a Wednesday. I have to do a Greg Cosell podcast today. I almost forgot. I'll have to do that live at the Senior Bowl.
Is he there? He's not there, is he?
Greg doesn't come.
No, he doesn't for this.
He's going to Super Bowl though. I will. So Greg and I were talking about this, like, philosophically, and like Justin Fields is a good example of this. Malik Willis is a much more raw version of the conversation. Like, at what point do NFL teams commit to the idea of working with a player who's got unbelievably athletic capabilities and build a roster around a dude who you may not develop as a passer just yet and try and win that way, the way that the Bears did with Justin Fields and his legs this year, even as we know Justin Fields to be a superior player at the position, is that a sustainable approach, or do they have to, kind of move away from that at some point and explore a better option, a player who's going to be able to better utilize, and the Bears are a bad roster just generally, but better equipped and better able to operate an NFL passing game. Basically, Greg and I had a whole 30-minute discussion about a philosophical change in the way that NFL coaching staffs go about this stuff, and if that's actually a real thing, and if Justin Fields is a good example of that.
Well,
so
the
I
clock's
think
ticking.
that you could make an argument, right? I think you can make an argument.
I think the clock is just ticking for Chicago. To maximize that from Justin Fields, you have to do it earlier in his career, during his rookie contract, which is basically halfway over.
Also news, the Arena Football League is coming back. It just says it's like the Michael Jordan thing. For immediate release, it's like a press conference or a press release that says, Phoenix, Arizona, February 1st, 2023. The following statement was released today by the Arena Football League through Commissioner Lee Hutton III in response to their future business plans. Quote, we're back.
Where'd they go?
I don't know.
They played last year and the year before that.
Okay. Well, these are things I didn't know, like Pink Floyd. We'll get into head coaching hires in the NFL that went down here in Mobile yesterday, at least the deals being done here in Mobile yesterday on a few of these fronts. Sean Payton and DeMeco Ryans. Who will have more success in their new role? We'll talk about that coming up next.
It is 12:01. Good afternoon from the Superbook.com Sports Desk. I'm Lucas Panzica. It is official. Tom Brady is hanging it up once again, announcing on social media this morning that he is retiring, this time, quote, for good. And the 45-year-old's career ends with 7 Super Bowls and as the NFL's all-time leader in regular season touchdowns, playoff passing yards, and playoff touchdowns. More head coaching vacancies in the NFL were filled on Tuesday, including in the AFC South. 49ers defensive coordinator DeMeco Ryans will be the head coach of the Houston Texans, where he played the majority of his NFL career as a linebacker. The Sean Payton sweepstakes have finally ended. The Denver Broncos hiring Payton and sending a 2023 first-rounder and a 2024 second-round pick to New Orleans. They will receive a Saints 2024 third-round pick. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Final hour. Call it third down here in Mobile. Welcome in. Welcome back. If you're hanging out with us, we're happy to have you. Kirby Allen Kirby is here with me, headed out to Senior Bowl practices here in just a little bit. Meanwhile, we got a lot more talking to do. Hendon Hooker is going to join us at 12:20, and we'll catch up with the VFL and who Jim Nagy called the face of college football for a very, very big chunk of this season. Did you find that, Lucas? I mean, I know you are the most biased Vols fans I feel like I know, except when there's a game on. Like, I feel like you are reasonable unless there is action happening in front of you.
I will submit to that. Yeah, I think when the game is on, all bets are off. But out of it, I can remove that part of it out of my brain.
Did you? I don't know why it caught me by surprise, because he was a Heisman Trophy front runner for a good portion of the season, and obviously he had the biggest win of any player, and his team had the biggest win of any team this year in college football over Alabama. So, but to hear Jim Nagy say the face of college football, it kind of struck me. I was like, oh no, I guess he's right.
Well, it was a murky sort of Heisman season when you look at the contenders. Like, there was no clear-cut leader, and you just kind of had to settle on Caleb Williams at the end of the year. You know, usually it's pretty convincing, but it wasn't last year. And Tennessee were, not the new kids on the block, so to speak, but, having not been nationally relevant for so many years, and the nature of their offense, and it's fun and exciting, and Hooker is a long story that, college football people and reporters love to cover. So, yeah, I don't think that's terribly off base. You're right. That win generated probably more buzz than any other singular win, even if just for the nature of Tennessee's fan base.
So anyway, the for a portion of the season, face of college football will join us in 15 minutes from now. In the meantime, so yesterday was a bleep show for a variety of different reasons. First day of Senior Bowl, everybody's trying to get their bearings. Obviously, I'm out there with my roster. I've got players who I want to watch, players who I am seeing practice for the first time, having not yet gotten to them in as far as draft preparation is concerned. And then there's a handful of dudes who I just haven't seen play before because they come from places like North Dakota State and Old Dominion and just necessarily don't the names don't have the brand recognition that a lot of the Tennessee and Alabama and Ohio State players do. So in the middle of all that is the Todd Downing situation, where I'm trying to get on the phone with the Williamson County Sheriff to figure out if Todd Downing did in fact get rebooked for a situation related to his DUI, or if this was a second occurrence. So that was a wrench thrown into my afternoon. But then there's all manner of coaching news that is breaking, because literally all of us, including the coaches that the news is breaking about, are here in Mobile trying to figure out, okay, who's going where, who is still available.
Wait, Sean Payton's not there, is he?
Sean Payton's not here. No, you're correct.
Is DeMeco Ryans?
No, but their agents are.
So you just lied just now.
Oh, am I? You really want to come after me after the update that you put together Monday of this week? Really?
I'm just saying.
You lied for half an update.
For the sake of fairness.
for the sake of fairness is why you lied to people at your top of the hour breaking news update.
No, that's fair. That I deserve to be called out on that, just like you deserve to be called out on how you lied just now.
Okay, great. We're all liars here. Excellent.
want to apply for the next White House spokesperson, dude. You just handled him beautifully.
He's talking to me, not you. Settle down, buddy.
No, I'm going to choose to think he's talking to me. Thank you, Kirby.
No, Kirby. How can you hear him? His microphone's off. Stop it.
Man, they can hear me. I don't need a microphone.
This is exhausting. It's like having Robert giggle off microphone when we're in the studio.
Let's just listen to Ian Rappaport talk about the compensation for Sean Payton.
Can we, please?
Yeah, a complex deal that really has been in the works for several days, kind of under the cover of darkness, but the Denver Broncos have now agreed to terms with the New Orleans Saints for compensation to complete the trade of Sean Payton. And what it is the New Orleans Saints receive a first rounder and a second rounder for Sean Payton and a third rounder going back. So essentially a first rounder and a pick swap now need to finalize a deal. With Sean Payton, which should really be no issue. This is going to happen. Sean Payton now expected to be the Denver Broncos head coach. But Mike, this was not a straight arrow for the Denver Broncos. Listen to what they did. First of all, they targeted DeMeco Ryans as their top choice. Then it was clear that was not going to happen. He was going to go to the Texans. Then they flew to Ann Arbor to try to get Jim Harbaugh and convince him to be the coach. Then today, when we all thought they were zeroing in on Sean Payton, they made another run at DeMeco Ryans, failed there, and now go back to Sean Payton and reach a deal with him.
So here's the thing about that, because Lucas, obviously that's Ian Rappaport of the NFL Network talking about this. He is reporting from the sidelines of the Senior Bowl. That I know is true because I saw Ian earlier. So you can't accuse me of lying there. But here's the thing: does it not sound like, based on that report, that the Broncos settled for Sean Payton? Would you call that an accurate assessment?
Depends which report you're leaning on.
Right. Because there are conflicting reports. We have an insider off, for lack of a better term, between Adam Schefter and Ian Rappaport.
The two biggest newsbreakers in the NFL.
And I mean, they couldn't be more far apart on this, which is great. Now, ultimately, like, they're far apart in terms of like how it was that the Broncos landed on the decision of Sean Payton. Because I hear Rappaport's situation, and I hear basically that the Broncos had to settle because DeMeco Ryans told them no twice. And guys like Dan Quinn, the former Atlanta Falcons head coach, now defensive coordinator for the Cowboys, said, "Nah, I'm good. I'll go back to Houston, or I'll go back to Dallas before I take one of these jobs out there." Here's the thing. So you hear Rappaport there, and then there's Schefter. The timing of today's two hires was completely coincidental, talking about DeMeco Ryans and Sean Payton at the same time. Broncos were zeroed in on Sean Payton and didn't make any contact this week with DeMeco Ryans or his agent. Denver was focused on Payton and Houston on Ryans. So we got the news about Ryans first, and then the Sean Payton news came out. And Rappaport is saying basically, no, they went through all different manner of things to finally land on settling, quote unquote, for Sean Payton, because they had interviewed multiple candidates. Jim Harbaugh went back to college football, so apparently they couldn't even entice Jim to come back to the NFL, despite how thirsty he seems to be to get back into the league with his continued, statements and what. When's the last time we've seen a statement from Michigan and Jim Harbaugh?
I think we're done. I think we're done with the statements.
Excellent.
Who do you got here?
Who do I got here?
Who you got?
Oh, Schefter or Rapp?
Who you got?
Oh. So Adam Schefter started at the Denver Post. Adam Schefter's Broncos sources are impeccable. But I also think that Adam has gotten kind of exposed in the last couple of years, more than he ever has been in terms of how it is that he goes about getting some of the information. Now, listen, it's a trade either way. A long story short, I think Rapp.
Rapp's is maybe more believable to me simply because of the compensation that it took to get Sean Payton. Because the Broncos now, they don't have a first-round pick now, right? Because the top 5 picks with Seattle and the pick they got for Bradley Chubb is now in New Orleans for Sean Payton. So the Broncos are pretty much in a spot where, well, you better win now, because there's not a lot of help on the way. You mostly got what you got.
But, okay, it is beyond belief for one reason. The way that he is framing this, or the way that he is reporting this, it makes it seem like the Broncos got turned down by everybody and finally settled for the best head coaching candidate in the cycle. What sense does that make?
Again, it's the compensation for Sean Payton.
No, I know.
That has to be the biggest hang-up in this. If it wasn't for having to give up multiple picks, including a first-rounder, and then the reported $20 million a year contract, then Sean Payton probably would have been the first coach off the board, you would think.
Yeah, no, I mean, the first-round draft pick is a big part of this. But still, like, if you are actually serious about moving forward and you believe in Sean Payton's ability as a head coach, then do you not think, and listen, we only have precedent to work off of, but when teams trade for head coaches, it has worked out in the team's favor who has traded for the head coach.
Yeah.
So I think that whole like concept to me is kind of a mind bleep, because how am I supposed to believe that the Broncos couldn't get anybody to take that job other than, Russell Wilson was kind of an atrocity, not kind of an atrocity, he was an atrocity this year, and then just suddenly have the best available coaching candidate. I mean, almost by consensus, the guy that they settle for. I find that so hard to believe.
It's got to be somewhere in the middle. Maybe that's a possibility because obviously they're getting this stuff from agents, so they're getting things spun to them in a certain way. So,
well, not exclusively. I mean, we don't. Here's the thing. Like, I'm not trying to sniff out people's sources, right? It's a meaningless exercise to just try and play gotcha. So we don't know exclusively that this stuff is coming from agents, right?
No, but when the stories,
factor in this.
Yeah, when the stories are this different, then clearly, people are giving them different sides of things. So I tend to think it is somewhere in a murky spot in the middle.
Then there's D'Amico Ryans, who, well, why don't we circle back to D'Amico Ryans? How about that? Because we've got Hendon Hooker coming up at 12:20. We're going to get into some Vols Senior Bowl prospect discussion, because I watched a good bit of Byron Young and Darnell Wright, as well as chatting with Hendon Hooker yesterday when I spoke to a handful of them at practice. So why don't we do the Hendon Hooker interview and then circle back to D'Amico Ryans towards the end of the show. 615-737-1045 is how you join the conversation. I'm Buck Rising. It's 1045 The Zone. Welcome back here in Mobile. Obviously, draft prospects all over the place. They're on the practice field right now. The media breakfast was this morning where we caught up with literally every member of the American team, the national team, and their coaches. Hendon Hooker was making his way around the convention center, and so after he caught up with Ramon, Kayla, and Will, I asked him if he had time to do a quick interview, and this was the conversation that we had with the former Vols quarterback. Lucas just told me in my ear, I'm hanging. Don't slink back into the shadows when things go wrong and leave me out to dry that way because you've said something in my ear. Come to the microphone with it. Say it with your chest.
Well, I didn't do anything.
Back here live at the Senior Bowl, Mobile, Alabama. Pleased to be joined by former Tennessee quarterback Hendon Hooker. Hendon, what's going on, boss?
What's going on? Thanks for having me on.
Man, absolutely. You were just wrapped up with Ramon, with Kayla, with Will. Obviously, a strong Tennessee contingent down here. How big is it for you to have your teammates and also your coaching staff down here to support you this week?
Yeah, it's wonderful. I remember, just watching Darnell work yesterday in practice, and I look over and I see most of the coaching staff here. So it's always great just to see the family here and get to chop it up with them, ask them how the young guys are doing back at school, and tell them that when I get back, I need everything in my locker. So I know the young guys try to go in and confiscate stuff from your locker, and I know Joe is probably in there trying to steal a couple things. So I'm eager to get back and watch those guys while we go through our pro day and things of that nature.
Now, you mean Joe's like that? Like Joe's going to scoop some stuff out of the locker?
I mean, Joe's my brother, so what's mine is his, what's his is mine. So I told him that he could whatever he wanted out of there, he can get. So except my cleats, he loves to grab my cleats. He has a plethora of my cleats, but I'm looking forward to seeing Joe in the spring game and in practice. I told him that I was going to wear his jersey, and that if he didn't sign it, then we're going to have some problems. But I'm looking forward to seeing those guys when I get back.
Man, for you to be down here, we were talking to Jim Nagy yesterday, talk essentially about the exception that was made for you to come down here to be able to participate in the interviews despite not being able to go through the practices. How big is that for you, and what was the conversation like with the Senior Bowl staff about making sure that you could make the trip?
Yeah, it was huge. It was huge. It's a blessing. Thank you to Mr. Jim Nagy and the Senior Bowl committee for allowing me to go through this process. This is a once-in-a-lifetime process, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to be here. Just a blessing to be able to sit in front of these teams and talk ball and show my character and show how I lead also. And then to be here amongst these great athletes, sit in these meetings, go through the playbook, be able to talk it on the field, take mental reps of what looks we're getting and what plays we like in these looks. It's been fun, and I wouldn't want it any other way.
Man, for you, you've said that you're the best player in this draft. Obviously, you're going to be confident about your abilities. You've displayed that throughout the course of your college career. What about this process continues to give you that affirmation that you are the best player in this draft?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just my football IQ. Knowing what I'm looking at, knowing that my confidence is reflected in my preparation. My preparation is par none. So I try to over-prepare for things so that any situation that comes my way, that I'll be prepared and know how to approach them.
I mean, you've been asked about the Alabama game this year 1,000,001 times, but still for the audience back home in Nashville, it's one of the coolest moments that they've had in the last 20 years of Tennessee football, certainly. How big was that for you, and how big was that for this program this season?
Yeah, it was huge. It was actually my father's birthday when we played him, so what he asked for was a win. So I'm happy I could get that win for him, and we went out to eat later on that evening, but also get that win for Vol Nation and the university, also my teammates. That's what I do it for. So to be able to go out there and compete at a high level every weekend and put on a show, because you never know. Like it's a lot of kids that come see me play that may not get the opportunity to see me play again. So I play it like it's my last on every down. I mean,
you got to remind Pops of that when your birthday comes up, right? Like, I mean, how's he going to top that?
Yeah, my birthday was a couple weeks ago, but my dad owes me nothing, man. He's sacrificed a whole lot to get me to where I am today. I hope I'm half the man he is when I get older.
What's the experience been like for you around these coaches and obviously the front office personnel? I know you've talked with Titans general manager Rand Carthon. How's that process been so far?
Yeah, it's been great. It's been great. Just to be able to, sit down with these guys and talk ball at a high level. I'm a football junkie, so any way I can, get my fix, I'm there for it. So just to be here and amongst these great athletes and sit down with these different teams and see how they run their scheme. And they ask me, you know, what I think in different situations. And me being me, I just love talking ball. So anytime I can get on the board and draw or talk about our scheme a little bit, it's been a blast.
You been around Vrabel yet?
Yes.
Did he heat you up at all?
Yeah, a little bit. But, you know, we had a great conversation. And it was just a blessing to be in his presence and talk this ball. Not a lot of people get to where I am today, and so I do this for them.
The ACL recovery obviously looks to be going exceptionally well. You're here with the brace on for people who are listening at home on radio. How big has that been for you? How has the process gone with that, and how good do you feel right now?
Yeah, I feel great. I'm really just wearing a brace because I'm walking around so much and I'm standing so much. But usually I don't have my brace on. I'm moving around. I got to sneak in some rehab like 1 a.m. because we get in the hotel room so late from just meetings and things of that nature. But so making sure I'm staying on top of that, making sure that I'm still, you know, going through the playbook and staying with a positive attitude. So bringing juice and energy to these practices is what I'm trying to do.
Well, Hendon, continued health and success. I appreciate you taking some time today.
Yes, I appreciate you having me.
That is Vols quarterback Hendon Hooker. He was kind enough to give us some time earlier today. So, Lucas, you said you knew it was his dad's birthday, the Alabama game. Was that a talking point during the broadcast? I hadn't remembered hearing that before.
I don't think during the broadcast. I want to say maybe it was on his Players Tribune article that he said that. He might have mentioned it at some point before as well. But I might be wrong. They might have had that on the CBS broadcast as well. But, yeah, that was well documented that his dad just asked him for a win on Bama game day for his birthday.
How do we feel about Joe Milton being a kleptomaniac?
Oh, taking Hendon Hooker stuff?
Yeah.
I don't know. Are they the same shoe size? He said, "Don't take my cleats." I imagine Milton is maybe a size or two up from Hooker in all facets, whether it's shirts or football pants or cleats.
What are you alleging?
That he's a very large human being. He's like 6'4", all right? But no, their friendship is pretty unique, though. I will say.
There's not a lot of starting and backup quarterbacks that get along that way.
Yeah,
there is no question. Yeah, he's you know, as you've heard, I'm sure many of you who have seen him interviewed before, and whether it's in long form settings or stuff that he does with like not the Players Tribune, the Smoky Mountain Club, the endeavor that our buddy Thomas Edwards and Josh Dobbs are very much a part of in the NIL efforts that the University of Tennessee has made to give these guys more of a platform and allow them to capitalize more on themselves. He's much more polished than your average draft prospect from a standpoint of media training. He's much more polished than I think the average guy that you talk to down here. Darnell Wright is also somebody I spoke to after practice yesterday. It's a little bit of a shorter clip, but he was phenomenal. The right tackle, formerly of the University of Tennessee, down here at the Senior Bowl. He's one of several who are making an appearance or were invited from Tennessee. They did specifically run blocking drills yesterday. Today, and they did some pass set stuff too, but today the one-on-ones are going to be focused on pass rush versus pass block. And that is something that I'm curious to see how he and the other tackles hold up when I make my way out to the afternoon practice. But, Lucas, let me know when you have that, and we'll let people hear from Darnell Wright, because I thought to talk to him about his one-on-one work and just basically the confidence that he's it's on my Twitter timeline, if you would. The confidence that he's carrying himself with at this point, I think, goes such a long way. It's easy to forget that. And I feel like we do this reminder every year, so maybe it's not that easy to forget because you got gas bags like me continually reminding you. But like, just because this dude's giant doesn't mean that he's not still a child. He's 21 years old and he's at the most important job interview of his life. So he had it was funny to hear him talk about like first day jitters at Senior Bowl practice, where I'm looking at him as like, you're a 300+ pound rage monster. What do you mean jitters? What are you talking about? But of course, that's the thing. It's those kind of reminders that I think that bring that stuff to the forefront. We're gonna talk a little bit more about the Vols prospects in just a second as well, because Byron Young did not look like he performed very well, and this was run game drill specific. So Byron Young in these drills It wasn't his best showing. He got a lot of attention from the coaching staff for the American team as they kind of worked with him on some of his technique and some of his hand placement and some of his base, essentially, to make sure that he didn't get moved off his spot as often as he did. He's a lighter player at the position as an edge defender, and obviously would be it would lend himself more to being a situational pass rusher, I think, in the league. Lucas, do you think that's a fair assessment of Byron Young at this stage?
Say it again.
As a situational pass, I was saying basically that he didn't do very well in the run stopping drills, and that I look at him just because not just his size but his skill set, and look at him, project him as more as a situational pass rusher at the next level.
Yeah, he also just wasn't consistently productive enough for Tennessee last season. I mean, he ended up with 7 sacks. As I look at it, a majority of 2 of those came in the bowl game. He played really well. He finished strong against Clemson. That was one of the better games of his college career. So he had 5 sacks throughout the course of the regular season, and they happened in bunches, right? 2.5 against LSU, big game for him there. 1.5 against Kentucky, and then he had 1 against Pitt back in week 2. So he just wasn't consistent enough. So I think that's probably fair to look at him as a situational guy rather than a every down type of pass rusher.
And by the way, we're talking about the Tennessee Byron Young, not the Alabama Byron Young, because he's also here. He had a much better day. The defensive tackle for the Crimson Tide, who is also at the Senior Bowl. I was reading an article on AL.com last night about the 2 of them, because they're both here and working on the same team or in the same practices. Apparently, one goes by BY, and the other one is just Byron at that point. And they've been dealing with, apparently, this kind of misidentification for years, because now they're teammates here at the Senior Bowl, but obviously both SEC players, both very high-level players at their position, and a lot of scrutiny on them as high school recruits coming out, but certainly would be curious to see how the Tennessee Byron Young fares better, if he fares better in the pass rush drills today. Are we ready to hear from Darnell Wright?
We've been ready. I've just been enjoying listening to you bloviate trying to kill time.
I wasn't killing time. I was providing exceptional analysis. Let me hear from the right tackle.
Do that, to dominate that way on the right side, kind of heading into the next level in the next stage.
Yeah, it's just it just felt good to, I guess, to do what I think that everyone around me has told me that I can do, and do something that I feel like I could do. Maybe deep down inside I always knew, but just having it come out and then just continuing to be consistent with it and just sharpen all my tools.
How much do you feel like you benefited from the one-on-one reps today?
Definitely a lot. I mean, it's the best of the best people here. I mean, it doesn't get any better than this other than the NFL, you know what I mean? So it's the best people here. That's what we're doing. We're competing, getting better. The best.
I know it's day one, but did you kind of see some different looks, maybe some different moves than you might have seen throughout the course of the year?
Yeah, for sure. I just today I felt a little bit like a jittery today. I just felt a little bit first day nerves, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I definitely felt I've seen nothing new as far as moves go and stuff, but definitely some better players here. But some of the same stuff.
It's completely understandable that you'd have like kind of first day jitters, but did working with NFL coaches for the first time, obviously you've been meeting with these guys, but do you feel like you got a lot out of the first day despite kind of having those jitters?
Yeah, for sure. Got a lot of just having confidence in those guys and having confidence in what they're teaching me. I mean, these guys, they're the best coaches around, you know what I mean? So I'm just happy to soak up everything that they have to offer.
And certainly he was taken to the coaching, and he was performing well in those drills. He's regarded as the best right tackle just generally, and not just the best right tackle who's here at the Senior Bowl, but regarded as the best right tackle prospect at that position. I'd be curious to see how much of that changes given guys like DeJuan Jones, the just monster from Ohio State, how much he was a talking point yesterday. But here's the thing. And we talked about this a little bit, I guess that was yesterday's show, with the attention that guys get in the media versus the work that they get done in the conference room, in the meeting rooms with the teams as they meet from 7 a.m., take a break for practices, and then go from basically from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. with the way that these interviews run. I don't want people to get media attention confused with whose status or draft status is actually rising or falling, because those aren't the same things. The practices are important. There are people who have exceptional insight and analysis on the positions that they are studying, who are making their assessments from the stands or from the sideline of the field at Hancock-Whitney Stadium, or is it Whitney Hancock? Either way, one way or the other, Hancock-Whitney. Versus the work that the scouts and the coaches are actually doing when they get about 15 minutes apiece with these guys. That's basically what we call the Malik Willis effect, because Malik was that dude last year here and was the darling of every sports media member who was at the practices, and then beyond that, what his limitations were as a well-rounded player at the quarterback position, which he is not yet, and certainly striving to be. There's a pretty stark difference between talking heads thinking that guy was a first-round pick and then him falling to the third and then getting traded up for in the third because a team with quarterback needs and quarterback interest just happening to be sitting there with a perfect, preseason perfect situation for him to kind of grow and develop in that role. We'll get to some polls. Last call for phone calls, 615-737-1045. If you got them, hanging out at the Senior Bowl for one more segment before we do our show here for the last day tomorrow on 104.5 The Zone. Okay. Wrapping up here for day number 2 of our Senior Bowl coverage. Headed out to practice right after this. I feel like we did a good show today, despite most of this being Kirby and Lucas attacking me for 3 hours. But I feel like that's when we're at my best. Just generally defensive and screaming at people. I feel like that's when we get the most done. Consensus, yes or no?
That's usually the consensus at the end of the show. I feel like we did a good job despite our best efforts.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I feel like we did a good show despite our best efforts. When they fire us all, probably not Kirby, because Kirby is literally irreplaceable. You can't find somebody who can do all of the things that Kirby can do. And probably not Lucas, because he's less expensive. But I will... and also potential. But when I inevitably am forced to resign in disgrace, that will be on the tombstone of this show.
Are you, like, at this point, you're just leaning in to the likability thing, right? Like, are you on a quest to make yourself seem the least relatable person? Did the bottle service thing just kind of fix your mindset? Said, okay, at this point, nothing I say will be able to level with people, so I might as well just lean in?
No, buddy, that's been my entire life. That's why I'm me.
Okay, I didn't know if you made like a conscious decision to do that, or
to have my personality, to actively be a D-bag. No, I mean it's just kind of what I do. It's my thing.
Split it. Create a couple extra personalities. Life's a lot more fun that way.
Go full schizophrenic.
I have arguments with myself multiple times throughout the day.
Oh, I know half the time Kirby's just talking to himself over there. I think he's talking to me, and no, it's not. It's not what's happening. He's either talking to the Pepsi bottle. He's
talking with Jesus.
Jesus. Jesus is who we're going out with later. Kirby is who I've got working with me now. Meanwhile, Tennessee plays tonight. This Florida game is of interest. Tennessee currently the number 2 team in the country. What was the first social media post you told me about, Lucas? We're the number 4 team in the country, or we're a top 5 team, and we're not number 5. When they were 4, and now they're the top 2 team, and they are, in fact, number 2.
Yeah, it was good work by their basketball social media account. Top 2, and we are 2.
So I called Florida down bad earlier. That was probably an unfair assessment. They're 12-9, and they're above 500 in conference play. They're 5-3.
First-year head coach
right now. So they're getting things kind of established at this point in the in the new tenure or in the new era of Florida basketball. Here's my thing, though. Like, I want to know whether what Olivia Cumwa did is sustainable. What he did against Texas is that, and it doesn't have to be 27 points, right? Like, he doesn't have to have the kind of overwhelming performance that he did that was necessary for them to beat Texas by 11 the way that they did in the Big 12 SEC Challenge. But I do want to see if there is a level of consistency that we have talked about all year long for this Tennessee offense that can be maintained, because they're at Florida tonight, and Gators are 7-3 right now at home. They are outscoring opponents by about 6.7 points per game, according to ESPN Stats and Info. And the Vols obviously have only dropped 1 conference game this year, that being to Kentucky, a bit of a stumble that they experienced at home. How they continue to rebound is going to be a critical part of this matchup, I think. Julian Phillips is averaging 5.1 per game right now. The Olivia Cumwa thing, though, Lucas, and how they continue to get more and more out of Zakai Ziegler, it seems like, with each passing game, that's the thing that I'm most curious to watch tonight.
Yeah, their offensive consistency has just been way better since that loss to Kentucky, where they kind of tweaked things in the lineup. You know, they went a little smaller, basically playing with 4 guards and Olivier Cumwa for big stretches. And if Cumwa can continue to be productive on offense, then I think this team could potentially keep that up, because the numbers have been really good offensively. I think it's 74 points per game in the last 3, something like that. Tonight they got to deal with Colin Castleton, the Florida senior big man. He's averaging almost 8 rebounds per game. I mean, he'll put up a double-double regularly in SEC play. So they should take care of business tonight. Like, there's no excuse. I mean, other than it's the SEC and it's hard to win on the road, for Tennessee to go down. They match up better than Florida. They're more experienced. You know, Rick Barnes and what he's established versus a first-year head coach trying to kind of implement what he's doing in Coach Golden down there in Gainesville. Tennessee needs to take care of business tonight.
Brett Batchelor, who works at the Zone on the digital side of things, had texted us about an hour ago because we were, rightfully so, just aghast at what Vanderbilt did or, frankly, did not do against Alabama last night. He says of Jerry Stackhouse, because we were talking about, what the hell do you do with Jerry Stackhouse? I did not know that Jerry Stackhouse got a contract extension before the season. Did you?
Yeah, at this point, man, contract extensions mean almost nothing to me in college athletics.
But at Vandy?
Maybe it's different because it's Vanderbilt, but I've gotten to the point where I'm almost conditioned to, unless it's making someone the highest paid coach in history of a particular sport, like contract extensions. I'm like, it's for recruiting. They're just going to happen all the time, and most of the time, it's not going to stop a school from firing a coach. Maybe Vanderbilt will be a different case, but at some point, they do need to kind of look in the mirror and say, okay, dude. At what point are people fairly questioning if we give a damn about winning?
I mean, that's been kind of the allegation about Vanderbilt football, but the basketball program, there is an expectation. Vanderbilt basketball has been a good program not that long ago. I know the Kevin Stallings thing flamed out the way that it did, but we are not that far removed, and there was hope around Bryce Drew. He had great recruiting, or he did well in recruiting. He got Darius Garland here, and I know obviously that ended in unfortunate injury that season where there was a lot of promise. But I should I not have expectations for Vanderbilt basketball either at this point? That sucks.
Yeah, again, they've kind of just fallen into mediocrity. I mean, they fell into the depths of the SEC at the end of the oh my goodness, how am I blanking on Bryce Drew era, and then they've kind of climbed back a bit up into mediocrity, and that's just sort of where it feels like they're stuck.
Well, speaking of mediocrity, let's do some polls.
All right, Dan. I reckon I'll talk about a poll update. This is Carl Childers. There's a young feller. I think he's got the final numbers. Here's the producer of the Buck Rising show. A feller named Lucas Panzeker. Got any mustard and biscuits?
Presented by Two Rivers Ford, who sells below MSRP on all non-specialty new Fords. What is the dumbest thing in sports this week? Brett Batchelor again, our teammate at the Zone, says Patrick Reed. He subpoenas Rory McIlroy on Christmas Eve. He expects Rory to be courteous to him on the driving range, then loses to Rory on the last hole of the tournament, and then got caught basically cheating again.
Did he really?
For the most, I wouldn't know the details on that. Maybe Kirby would.
Kirby, do you know anything about Patrick Reed cheating this past weekend?
I know that he was accused of cheating, but Patrick Reed has been accused of cheating multiple times throughout his PGA career. That's why everyone cheered him going to the Live Tour.
Unbelievable. Yeah, no, he's
a scumbag.
There is your assessment from Kirby Allen Kirby.
Do you believe Tom Brady? 73% do.
Well, I mean, I guess, but people believed him last time. I don't know. I don't think that somebody like Tom just stops. I think he has to be physically removed from the field of play. And he just made the playoffs even if they were under 500. The reporting around it is that he is definitively done. But I don't think you can say anything definitive about a dude who has done more at an age that any professional athlete has gone above and beyond to kind of succeed at. Still capable of playing at a high level.
Best head coaching hire so far in the NFL coaching carousel. 48% say it's DeMeco Ryans to Houston. 40% say Sean Payton to Denver. Only 12% say Frank Reich to Carolina.
I mean, it's probably Payton, and the Broncos don't deserve it because their job is bad, and they just screwed around and tried to hire everybody else. But we'll see what happens with Sean Payton. If anybody is going to have a shot to fix Russ, the way that the general manager said he did not need fixing and then acknowledged that, yeah, we think he's fixable. It's just a whole word salad cluster bleep in Denver.
Who you got? Rap Sheet or Shefty? 65% go with Ian Rappaport.
Man, I think that's Titans fan bias against Adam Schefter for the Derrick Henry thing.
And he's a miracle truther.
That's right. He is a Music City miracle truther. I'm sorry. Why is that the case? Do we ever find out an answer for that?
Well, he contends he was in the press box at the time, and that where he was positioned was directly over the pass, and he always says, "Oh, my eyeball saw it. It was a forward pass."
Honestly,
it was.
Oh,
Kirby.
I've said it since 2 seconds after it happened. I had it before they ever even reviewed it. I thought, oh, that's coming back. It was a forward pass, and then just much like the tuck rule. Now I'm going to get on a soapbox here for just a second.
Oh my God!
But until that very moment in the NFL, your position on the field was decided about where your feet were. I love Frank. Frank threw the ball forward, and that is history. It was not forward by more than maybe a couple of feet.
Kirby's canceled.
But the ball went forward.
Of all the things that we would cancel Kirby for, I didn't think it'd be for being a Music City Miracle truther. We will be back at it here from the Convention Center for one more day of Senior Bowl coverage. I'm off to practice. I'll talk to you tonight on Primetime.